This is Jeremiah 51 and 19. It says, "The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance." Yahweh of hosts is his name. I like to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle elders, a great millstone who rule well. And salutations to all you brothers out there pushing this word in love, truth, sincerity, and humility. Once again, it's the brother Shati from the Chicago camp coming back to you with what I hope is another quick and edifying sit down. And the scripture was inspired by two pieces of art that I just so happened to see in my recent vacation in Barcelona. So one day when I was traveling throughout the, I believe they call it the Gothic Center, I just so happened to pass by this church here. It's called Church of Saint Maria, or Saint Maria's Church. All right, it's correct either way you want to say it. But nonetheless, as I was saying, I was with my family and we were touring the Gothic district, and we just so happened to walk past this church. And so there was nothing about this church that was like I was wooed about or said, hey, this is on my to-do list of things to see. But usually when the Lord blesses me to be able to go over to Europe, my whole mindset is you might as well do it, because when is the next time you're going to be able to get to Barcelona, Spain, let alone get back to Europe in general? So I went inside the church, and in typical fashion, as soon as I walk in, you see all the classic paintings and sculptures of the Renaissance period. All right, you see the white Jesus, the white Marys, and you have these stone sculptures of angels with long hair and these big wings and the horns. And I gave the whole church a quick look, and I said to myself, you know what? I've seen all I need to see. It was cool. I'm going to leave now. But the Spirit said, hey, Shatif, just keep walking. Go to the back and keep walking. So I followed the Spirit, and I was walking to the back of the church. And as I arrived at the back of the church, I saw this image, which I'm going to bring up in a quick second. I'm going to put the video on pause. This is the image that I saw on the back of the wall. Now, mind you, I said when I stepped inside this church, that everywhere, pretty much everywhere you looked, it fit the typical Renaissance art and sculpture style. And then you have this one small section in the back with this icon there. Now, I tried to decipher as much as I can what these little billboards were saying underneath the icon. Unfortunately, a good portion of it was in Catalonia. It's like I know Portuguese is Spanish and French, but even Catalonia has Spanish and French, but it sounds more French. But nonetheless, the stuff that I could decipher didn't mention anything about this icon, like who it is, who designed it, what year it came from. You just saw this image on the back of the wall. So I said, wow. And I mean, you don't know who this is, but clearly by looking at it, you can tell that this was an image of a very rich and noble family back in the day, or it was a artistic representation of the nobility back in the day. So this is the first thing I saw. Now be patient with me. I'm saying all this to match up with my precept for a purpose. Second thing that I saw, put the video on pause and I'll get it for you. Okay. Now this image here was actually in, I don't know if you saw part 2 of this series, but this was actually in the Historical Museum of Barcelona. Okay. And this is a image off of, I'm not sure if it's an actual painting or off of like a wall or a vase, but it says here, works of charity. It says Bibliothèque Nationale de France, basically the National Library of France. Okay. This was done in or around the year 1346. And as you can see here, you have a bunch of Edomites appearing to be in some type of distress, and they're going to, as we can clearly see, a Jake for help and assistance. Okay. Now, once again, I say all this to say that the narrative that is usually pushed about the Dark Ages is that it was a very dark time in history where mankind was not enlightened, that information was limited, okay, and civilization was base, okay, technology was not up to date, things got lost. So we don't have a lot of history regarding the Dark Ages. But you know what's funny? And the Elder Malcolm mentions this all the time, that when you watch these Viking shows and these timepieces, these are events that happen in the Dark Ages, but who's playing the main characters? Edomites. So we don't have a lot of information about the Dark Ages, but every time you turn on a movie, you have timepieces about the Dark Ages where supposedly Edomites were ruling. And see, this is the narrative that they push. But see, when you do your diligent research, you find out quite the opposite. And see, that's what brings me to my precept about how Jake is the former of all things. Jake was the beginning of this medicine. Jake was the beginning of this information. Jake was the beginning of the icon that you just so happen to see in the beginning of this video. Okay, the way it's done, the art style. Okay, all this stuff was copied by Bad Uncle Esau and then used to put their likeness in the place of ours, as spoken of in the book of First Maccabees 3, what's that, 38 or 48? First Maccabees 3:47, it says, Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their image. And see, for a time, this is what they did because their whole agenda was to hide our identity. This whole multi-billion, possibly $1 trillion campaign of iconoclasm was for the sole purpose to eliminate our influence and mark in history during this time. And for some time, it was very successful. But see, as spoken of in the book of Ezekiel, (37), and I'm going to start at 1. Ezekiel 37:1, it says, The hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, they were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahweh, power, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith Yahweh power to these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and I will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. And it says, Then said he unto me, Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say unto the wind, Thus saith Yahweh power, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Okay. Now there's more to this, but the point of me reading this is that, as I mentioned before, Bad Uncle Esau was successful at a time in making sure that this information did not come out. He was very successful at a time in making the whole world believe that he was the original Vikings and Scots and Brits and Italians and Spaniards. And they were the beginning of all this great new knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But in all actuality, it's the complete opposite. Because when the Lord, as spoken of in this Ezekiel 37, put that breath of life back in us, okay, this truth, as spoken of in 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, I believe it is, or is it 27 or 37? But nonetheless, the spirit that the Lord put back in us, okay, making us prophesy and tell this truth, It's now coming to a point where all the things that bad Uncle Esau tried to cover up, it's now coming to the light. And see, it's getting to the point where now the whole world is starting to realize, like, whoa, these people that we think are thugs and gangbangers and all this stuff, like these people actually had a moment in history where they left a great mark. Yes, we did. Okay. And 2 Ezra 6:27, it says, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared." Okay, and that truth is, first and foremost, that so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are the true Israelites of the Bible. Okay, and our people were ruling during the time of the Dark Ages from 350 AD to 1350 AD. Okay, is when we had pretty much a iron, what they call like an iron grip of power in Europe. And that those people in Europe, they were Israelites too. You merely just have to read up on the history of the things that they did. They also followed the Sabbath. Where you watch a lot of these timepieces, when do you ever see a grown man that's a warrior or a king or somebody of nobility in these films and they don't have a beard? Okay, these things were Israelite customs, not the customs of bad Uncle Esau. As it said in Wisdom of Solomon, the second chapter, this guy is clean contrary to the scripture. And if this guy truly is the former of things as he claims to be, this guy, meaning bad Uncle Esau, why does he not keep his beard? As the elder Malcolm mentioned in one of his videos, why is he not building castles the same way that they were built back then? Why are they not designing things the same that they were back then? The answer is very simple. It's because they are not the people of the Lord, and they sure as hell were not the people of the Dark Ages. They came afterwards. And the mere fact that you see all this elegant type of artwork, okay, and the way it's designed and how it looks like in comparison to the people that was ruling, come on, man. It is clearly obvious who was ruling at that time. And see, now this devil is getting scared because the truth is coming out about this. You can't hide it. Why? Because this picture, and I hate to put it on pause, but let me bring up this other icon. And this icon tell a totally different story. There is no mistaking that this icon is in reference to a dark person. These icons prove and show and depict a an accurate narrative that in many cases there's not enough pages in a book to even write down. As they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. This speaks for itself. The artifacts of the time speak for itself. The people that were ruling at this time were so-called what people call today black people, who are really brown. All right. And these people just so happen to be the Israelites of the Bible. You just can't dispute it. So that's all I wanted to say on this. I hope you all were edified. I hope this, this little series inspires you to do your own research and just check a few things out for yourself. Nonetheless, that's all I wanted to say on this. Until the next time, we're going to say shalom.